Getting into FPV can be extremely expensive, especially now with the current global chip shortage. But there's a special company called DarwinFPV that intends to stop this trend by manufacturing quality drones at really affordable prices. Now their last drone, the Baby Ape, was a huge success, coming in at around $79. Today we're taking a look at their latest drone, the TinyApe Freestyle. And at $129, we might have another winner on our hands. All right, so here's the box right here. Pretty simple. It says DarwinFPV with a gorilla with some goggles on. Pretty cute, pretty cool. And on the side here, you have the gorilla again with the TinyApe and a QR code. So you can go to their website and download also some manuals as well. So let's open this up. I have my unboxing knife right here. Just one tape holding this thing shut. All right, cool. You have a foam insert for protection. Another like a business card, QR code, and a thank you letter. Hey, pretty good touch. Besides that, we have propellers here. Looks like just one set. Wow, only one set. Okay, I guess that to keep the price down. These are the Gem Fan props. We'll talk about this a little bit later. Then we have some stickers. Looks like a battery strap, some zip ties, and a lot of screws, guys. Whew. All right, here's the drone right here. And unfortunately, the cap came off. It was already off, but that's cool. This thing is so tiny, guys. Wow. And then I think this is the same. So 2 cards. And then what is this? This might be a receipt. No, this is a picture or a schematic of the flight controller, which is pretty cool. All right, so let's take a look at this drone. This thing is extremely light. Now, they say that this thing weighs around 50 grams, and I believe it. This thing I don't know what I was thinking, but it's small. It's a 2.5-inch drone, obviously, but we'll see what it shows here on the scale. And sure enough, the website says 50.3. It's showing 51 on my scale here. And they recommend a 450 milliamp hour battery, 2S battery. So let's see how much that's gonna weigh with the battery. Looking at around 78 grams. So not bad, way under the 250 gram restriction for most countries. All right, so the first thing that jumps out at me is just the size, the shape, the way it looks. And this reminds me a lot of the Emax Baby Hawk 2, just the design. You can see this X right here. Very similar, guys. Even down to this little plastic here. There's a plastic here as well. Next thing I noticed is this big old camera. Now this is the Runcam Nano 4. And I've also used this camera before on the Tiny Hawk 3. That's where it was first released. And I did say that that was one of the best cameras as far as colors is concerned. All right, coming to the side of here, we have these DarwinFPV motors. The previous drone didn't have their branding. And this is a 1103 8000 kV motor. So pretty good. It looks like it has a 1.5 millimeter shaft, and there is also some threads on here. So it's not just a press-on prop fit. Now talking about the motors, we have the propellers here. They're not mounted on here yet, but these are the GemFam 2512. They're obviously a 3-bladed propeller. Looks pretty cool. Obviously these are 2.5-inch propellers. And yeah, unfortunately we don't have any spares. So that's probably one thing you might want to invest in is some spare propellers. Now it's kind of hard to miss here. This, battery strap is in the way here. It's kind of hard to put away. And it's already pre-installed. We have a spare one here. But I'm just looking at how close this is to the board here. Now, I'm looking here at the VTX. This is the 006 VTX, and it's power adjustable between 25 milliwatts and 600 milliwatts. That's really high, especially for a drone of this size. Connected to the VTX, I can see a UFL connector with a regular linear dipole antenna. But the cool thing is that you can upgrade this later on if you want to. It's a UFL connector, and you have a TPU mount right here where the antenna goes to. I don't like the fact that the antenna is actually this low, but as I said, you can easily adjust that or change that out. While we're in the back here with antennas, I can see an antenna right here, and this looks like the antenna for the receiver. This does have an Express LRS receiver in this drone. I'm expecting really good range having this external antenna on here. Now talking about the flight control, it's an all-in-one board. So we have the flight control, the ESCs, and also the receiver that I talked about, the Express LRS receiver in here. So that's pretty cool. Now because of that, you do have to flash the board if you do want to upgrade your Express LRS, firmware on there, which is kind of a pain in the butt. It's one additional step. And I think that's particularly true here because we have this one shipped. This is the version 1 shipped with Express LRS 1.0. Now, Express 2.0 has been out in the community for a long time, and I don't know anyone still running 1.0. So in order for me to flash this receiver, I will have to flash the flight controller as well. Now, talking about the all-in-one, we also have the ESC in here. It's a 15 amp ESC. Continuous and then peak at 17 amps. So that should be adequate for this size. That's a lot of power. And it is running the Blue Jay firmware on here. Usually you have the BL Heli in here, but Blue Jay isn't bad. So that's pretty good. Besides that, you know, we have an XT30 plug here, which is good. A lot of the 2S drones might use a PH 2.0. Now this flight controller here is rated for 1 to 3S. They recommend a 450 milliamp 2S battery, and that's particularly true. I would not recommend a 3S battery. Now, although the flight controller can handle it, these motors here are not good for 3S. Now with this 2S battery, now they're saying that you can get around 5 minutes of flight time with a 450 milliamp hour battery. I have some larger and some smaller. I'll be also running a 525 milliamp hour 2S battery as well and see how this one performs. All right, let's go underneath here. Underneath, nothing special. The first thing that jumps out at you is this clear plastic to prevent moisture from hitting the electronics on here. Another thing that jumps out at me is just the hardware, the screws on here. We're looking at Phillips screws all under here. Usually you'll find a hex, you know, screw to hold this whole thing together. It's an interesting choice. It might be a cost-saving choice. No big deal there. And you have some TPO here on the bottom, and that's to protect this right here, which is the micro USB port to update the flight controller. It's a pretty cool position for that, and it's nice that they thought about this little TPU to keep it protected. All right, guys, this thing looks good. I'm excited to fly this, guys. This is amazing. So let's install the propellers on this, see how this looks, and then we can go ahead and update the firmware on the flight controller. All right, so we're here at the computer. I have my TinyApe right here. I have the USB connected to it. I also have a fan right here to keep it cool since we're gonna be powering through the USB. So the first thing you wanna do is update your Betaflight configurator. And it's as easy as just going to the GitHub website and then download the latest version. Right now here, they're using the Candidate or RC5. That's the latest one. That was done like 5 days ago. Here it is right here, Betaflight configurator, and as you can see it says 10.8.0. It doesn't say the release candidate, but this is the latest one, RC5. I'm just gonna plug my drone into the computer. And before I do anything here, I'm just gonna go to the CLI and save the configurator. I've already done that. And here's all your configuration on your flight controller. I already saved that to my computer, so that's all good. So we're gonna disconnect here, go to firmware, or update firmware. We're gonna go to update firmware. Now you wanna go here and choose your targets. For right now, we're using the Betaflight one, F4, and this is not the right one, so let's take a look at it. Now, if you don't remember your target, you can easily just step out of here, go to connect, and you can see your target right here, BetaFPV F4 SX1280. So that's what I'm looking for. And as you can see, it's not here, I don't see it. So that just means I'll have to go to show unstable releases. If you forget the number, it's also here in your diagram that was included with your packaging, and it says it right here as well, SX1280. Release candidates, and then I see it right here, Betafpv F4 SX SX1280. I'm just gonna do a full chip erase while I'm there. That's all good. So a target is fine. We're gonna look for it online, load firmware, and it found it. Sweet. So let's hit flash firmware. All right, let's see if it works. I don't think it flashed it. All right, so I'm gonna have to put this flight controller into bootloader mode. Yay for me. Okay guys, so I figured out what was happening here. Two things. One thing was that I didn't have the appropriate drivers. So I was missing this Zadig driver. I had to download that, and then I also have to put this in bootloader mode, and we should be good to go right now. Now, this information here is already loaded. I think this should work right now, and as you see, it says exit DFU mode, so I think we're good. We have our target. This looks all good. Let's see if I can flash the firmware here and see what happened. Go here, erasing, and it's doing it properly now, which is good. Fantastic. And then here it goes, it's flashing now. Okay, so we're making some progress here. It was just the driver that was... All right, programming successful. And now we have disconnected and the drone has reconnected. So that looks all good. And now we're back to our regular comm. So it's now out of bootloader mode or DFU mode, which is good. I can connect on here. And as you can see, all the information that I had in the flight controller is now gone. So this is where it was wise to save your configuration in a file. So I'm just gonna close that, which is good. The first thing I want to do is just load the config file. I had it saved, so I have it right here, Notepad. I'm just gonna copy. Perfect. Go back to Betaflight, put it in the CLI command, paste, hit enter. All right, let's see here. Invalid name. Okay, no big deal. All right, we're gonna save it. It's saved. So now it's back on here. Connect. And let's check out these ports. It's still correct. That's all good. Configuration. We're gonna look in here. This all looks good. Set. The name is correct. Everything here looks good. Didn't reboot. Looking good. My receiver, now that shouldn't be working because I don't have the Express LRS passphrase in there. We'll talk about that right now. The reason we did all of this was just to flash the Express LRS receiver. This is the reason why most people don't like to use, SPI receivers, is because now you have to flash the flight controller just to get access to the receiver. So now we have to put the CLI command in here. I usually use a passphrase. Most people use a passphrase when using Express LRS, therefore this can bind to all of your radios in your fleet or in your drone. If I go to expresslrs.org, you type in SPI receivers, then you have a UID byte generator, and you can change the letters in here, and then it will generate a UID. So I'm just gonna put my binding phrase in here, copy, and then just go back to my Betaflight, paste it in there, enter, and now we're good. So technically now my receiver should be powered and my radio should bind automatically.
Welcome to OpenTX.
Now I don't know if I will have...
RF signal critical.
All right, so I have telemetry. It looks good. So that's the best thing about Express LRS. You can just put a binding phrase in there and it will just connect automatically to your radio. Woo! Okay guys, I'm pretty content with all of this. So we're done here. I have my Express LRS receiver reflashed, flight controller is flashed. I have the latest firmware on here and the latest firmware for my Express LRS receiver. So yeah, let's go outside and take this for a flight. All right guys, we're outside here. It's a beautiful day. Unfortunately, the weather is not the best. As you can see from the trees, and you probably hear from the mic, it's very windy, actually very, very windy. We're looking at between 20 and 25 miles an hour wind, so not the best conditions for this small 2.5-inch drone, but we're still gonna fly it and see how it goes. See what we're looking, man, this wind is crazy. All right, cool. All right. Oh, this wind. All right, we're in acro. Man, the breeze is crazy. Armed. so we're back from our test flight, and guys, I must say off the bat, I had an amazing time flying this TinyApe Freestyle. Just a blast, guys. Like, holy cow, this thing is good. So let's talk about it. Okay, so the first thing to note here is that the weather for the past week has been extremely windy, and I mean the whole week. Even right now as I record this, I can hear the wind outside. So it's been hard to find a time to actually fly this drone. I would literally wake up in the morning, get dressed, and go outside, and by the time I get to the field, it's already windy. Now, I'm sure you've probably seen it in the video. Guys, we're talking about between 20, 25, and 30 miles an hour winds. But I'm proud to say that, you know, this 2.5-inch drone, this thing here performed really exceptionally well, even in the windy conditions. Okay, so we got out there, we armed the drone, and everything seemed okay, guys. The first thing I noticed was how quiet these propellers were. So yeah, this thing is really quiet, making this drone really perfect if you want to be inconspicuous or fly and not get so much attention. So we took off, and this thing felt really light, guys. Any kind of movement of the throttle, it just responds. What really blew me away is just the composure of this drone. So I'm clearly thinking that this thing is gonna get tossed by the wind as soon as I lift off. No, guys, you know, it stayed in one place. I was more than impressed with the composure, and yeah, the flight control on this is really good. It didn't freak out, it didn't overcompensate. I flew it around trying to get a feel for the drone. It's obviously the first flight, not trying to fly too far. And as I flew it more, I became more aggressive, obviously. It's a freestyle drone, trying to speed up, increase the angle, do some dives, do some loops, some rolls. It is pretty darn good, guys. I keep saying it. It's really good. Now, obviously, I am not the best pilot. Clearly, I'm not the best pilot. That's not even a question. But, you know, try to do as much maneuvers as I can, and I'm not meeting the limitations of this drone. So this thing is a well-capable and a well-advertised freestyle drone, guys. So yeah, it's like having a best friend with you guys, a really cool or chill best friend. So this thing is down for anything. When you're just relaxing, it just stays there, even with the high winds. But when you're ready for some more adventure or some more aggressive maneuvers, this thing says, hey, you wanna go? You wanna climb? You wanna dive? You wanna speed up? And this thing will do it. I do plan to fly this in the future, maybe with the RunCam thumb, once I figure out the mounting solution, because there really isn't any holes or screws here to put a camera in the front, actually. The first screw that I see here is on the standoff, and it's way recessed back. So, you know, DarwinFPV, if you're listening, maybe for your next version, just put some holes or a solution here for a camera, because yes, this thing, you know, I guess at the time of design, there really wasn't a camera light enough, but a 2.5-inch drone should be able to carry a light action camera. At least I think so. Most definitely the RunCam thumb, it can do that. Now, talking about weight and batteries, I use a series of batteries today. I use a couple of them. I'm using the 450 milliamp hour. It's one that's recommended. Pretty good. These are all 2S batteries. I also have a 525, a little bit larger. And to me, this was the best battery of the bunch. A good middle ground of both weight savings and longer flight times. And then I have a little bit larger battery here. This is a Tattoo R-line, so really high performance, really high C rating. Now, between all of this, as I said before, I think the 525 is the best choice. The 450 did a good job as well, but I felt like the drone was too light. Now, you might want that for maneuverability. The drone was just touchy, which is really good. Whenever you banked it, turned, it would respond pretty quickly. You give it some throttle, it would just fly up. So I think the 450 is good for that. I didn't feel like the 525 was a big difference. Now, talking about battery, one thing that concerned me was this battery strap. As you can see it right here, it is kind of recessed. The problem here is this battery strap, I wish to use another, you know, another strap or a traditional, you know, battery strap. This one here is just kind of finicky. This drone is by no means big. And when I mean big, it's not that long. So you have a short, you know, plank here or top plate here to actually put these batteries. Now, as I said before, if I want to put an action camera on here, then it would be a very tough way to do it. I don't know how I would do that. These props, by the way, guys, not to be any sidetrack, you probably saw it earlier when I was showing you the props on here, but the tolerance for these props, it's so close, guys. Like, when this thing turns, it's literally at the side plates of the drone, like right here. In fact, as this thing turns, it's under the actual top plate. So the top plate's a little bit wider than where the propellers go. Anyways, I digress. This right here, as I said before, the battery strap could be improved. I did find a cool way to do it, and it's almost like a two-way procedure. If you pull on this bigger loop portion here, pull it down where it's tight, and then put the flap down, there is some, adhesion back there or some hooks. And then the same for this side, do the same thing on the other side, and then you have a really nice tight seal. Now, as far as the flight time with these batteries, I was averaging between 4.5 to 5 minutes with the 450, and then 5.5 minutes to 6 minutes with the 525 and the 550. So I'm getting easily 6 minutes with the larger size battery. All right, so let's talk about the camera on this drone. This is the Runcam Nano 4. This is a pretty decent camera. I remember this camera when it was first introduced on the TinyHawk 3. I had that in the RTF kit. Now the colors on this one didn't seem to be as vibrant as what I saw on the TinyHawk 3. It was okay, but nonetheless a pretty good camera, very neutral picture on there. One thing I did notice though was that I did see some color shift. Sometimes I'd be flying and I would see the grass would be green, and as I move forward, the grass would go from green to brown immediately. Overall though, a pretty good camera, and I'm sure it's significantly better than the one on the Baby Ape. So yeah, pretty good. So since we're on the topic of image, let's talk about the VTX. Now this has a 600 milliwatt VTX, and it did a pretty good job. Now it comes from the factory set at 400 milliwatts, and I didn't want to change that. I kept it the same way as the factory. So my first couple of flights I did fly at 400 milliwatts, and it did a decent job. It was okay, nothing to write home about. Now for the sake of testing, since I'm doing a test here, I did bump it up to 600 milliwatts to see if there was any difference. And there was an improvement in image quality and range, but it wasn't significant. There wasn't a big jump. I don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't dramatic. Now, I don't think the VTX in this drone is bad. In my opinion, I do think the culprit here is the antenna, both the placement of the antenna and the length of it. So as you can see, the antenna here is really, really short. Even the lead for the battery plug is actually taller than the antenna for the VTX. Not only that, it's a linear antenna, so it's not the best. I would suggest, you change the antenna. In fact, that's gonna be my first mod on this, because this, spoiler alert, this is a perfect drone. This is a pretty good drone. And yes, going away from you, it works. Once you turn around, it's being blocked by not only the plug, but the battery. And I'm sure it would do better if it was the length of maybe the antenna for the RX or even taller. So that's gonna be my first investment. And I'm sure that's a cost saving measure by, DarwinFPV to make this drone as affordable as possible. Okay, so while we're on the topic of antennas and we're looking at it right here, let's talk about the receiver. The receiver performed very well, just like any Express LRS receiver. Range was really good, no fail safes, just a good performing drone. This is my first drone though with an external Express LRS antenna. So I was expecting really decent, like blown out the water range. But, in my opinion, from what I saw with the DBM, it performed like your regular ceramic, antenna. No significant increase in performance. But, I also might suspect that too, this being an integrated, receiver on this board here, the flight controller, it is an SPI receiver, so it is built in, it's not a standalone receiver. By the way, I did fly this drone only at at 100 milliwatts, which is, people get really good range with 100 milliwatts. But if you have any concerns, you can easily bump it up to 250. That's probably the highest I would ever use on this. The receiver is good, and I'm just excited to see more and more manufacturers have an Express LRS in their drones. Now, I'm kind of torn between the whole SPI and the standalone receiver. I do understand that you have these for weight saving and for cost measures, especially for small drones. But to update this, you do have to update the flight controller and flash the whole thing, which there's the potential to have a wrong flash and then potentially breaking your flight controller. In the end, guys, no gripes. This receiver performed as advertised. All right, talking about the antenna and the durability of the antenna, I had a few crashes. I had 1 or 2 crashes and a lot of hard landings. And this drone is durable. Never once did I have to question, the durability. Nothing is wrong here. Antenna is still good. Props, that was my main concern when I unboxed it, was we have only 1 set of props. Never broke a propeller. So everything seems to be really durable. You have these braces here. And yeah, guys, as I said before, this thing is very reminiscent of the Baby Hawk 2 here with the frame. And you obviously have the bracings here as well. So you can see the cross brace here, and I don't know if that's doing anything for resonance. I mean, this is a very small frame, so I don't expect much resonance from this, but really, really good flyer, guys. All right, guys, so what do I think about this drone? So overall, guys, I think this is a pretty good drone, a really good drone. Almost, may I say it, it's too good, guys, it's too good. Now, I don't use those words lightly, and I don't like to, exaggerate some of the things, that I'm saying, whether it be emotional or not. Yes, it's too good, it's really good. Now, the price structure on this, obviously, this is a little bit more expensive than its bigger brother, the Baby Ape. And you're probably saying, why? Why is this drone smaller yet it's more expensive? In my opinion, guys, yes, it is more expensive, but it is worth it. It's still a pretty good deal. Now, why do I say that? Well, a few things. First of all, let's talk about the camera. The camera here obviously is a better camera compared to the Baby Ape, so you are paying for that. Then you have your motors here. Now, these are branded motors on here compared to what you find on the Baby Ape, which a lot of people kind of speculated it was older parts from other manufacturers, whether it be Emax or any other manufacturer. And we're not saying that these are by themselves, DarwinFPV. It does say that right here, but you're paying for better motors for sure. At least it looks more modern, that's for sure. And last but not least, you have a receiver on this drone, opposed to the Baby Ape with no receiver. You have to put the receiver on here. This does come with the receiver, and at that it comes with Express LRS. So the best in the business, best for range, best for latency. This will all add up, guys. We're talking about something that's, in my opinion, not too expensive. And obviously, guys, the result is really good, really positive. The end result is a drone that flies really well. You're not thinking about, this camera, it sucks. Oh, this receiver doesn't work. This motor is gonna smoke and I don't know how to replace it because there's no branding or parts on here. Everything here is really good, guys. So good, in fact, that this is now gonna be my new freestyle trainer and my drone of choice for traveling. That's a huge deal, guys. Just so that you know, I have my travel kit right here. This is what I use to travel, guys. This is what I use to travel when I go anywhere outside the US. If I wanna be inconspicuous, everything I can fly is in here. And let's take a look at that because that's kind of important. I might make a video on this a little bit later. If you look in here, I travel with this because when you go to other countries, you go to customs, you want to have something that's not too aggressive. People won't look at you funny. And if they see that this looks like a toy, then they're just going to disregard it. And this is my setup right here, guys. This is what I use. And as you can see, I have the drone on top here. Now, this is a really, really good drone. This is the Smart 16 by Gephardt. See, I've done a review on this. I'll leave a link above and below, but this thing is really capable for its size, just like this TinyApe, guys. And obviously you can see I have the mount in here for the RunCam thumb, so it does carry an action camera, and I do have the harness right here for the thumb. So this is a pretty cool drone, and it fits right there. And obviously I have my radar here, so yeah, I can fly any drone with this, both FR Sky or Express LRS, even Crossfire if I want to. And then I have all my batteries right here. Batteries, chargers, propellers, antennas, everything fits right in here. And then boom, close it up, and it doesn't even show on the radar. So my best setup right here for traveling. Now this drone right here is even more capable. Now I just gotta find a way to mount this for travel. I don't know if I can put this in here. I might have to remove the propellers, yeah, for sure. But I gotta find another way to mount this. Can I put it in here? It's still probably too big. The antenna's hitting. So I'll figure it out, but something that's very inconspicuous. I can go anywhere in the world and no one's gonna question my motives. So, as I said, it's a high praise, guys. So in conclusion, guys, the TinyApe Freestyle is an amazing drone. DarwinFPV has done it again. That was the initial question when I unboxed this. Can we have another winner? And this is it, guys. Now, I'm not saying go out there and buy this. I will never tell you to go buy a drone. But if you're looking for something that's fun, capable, has the potential, for right now, it looks dependable. I don't see any issues here. The camera works. This is a drone, and for the price, I mean, you really can't beat it, guys. You have flight controls, you have radars that are significantly more expensive than this whole total drone right here. In fact, where is it? I put it away already. The Smart 16 is probably the same price or even more than this. So this is really good, guys. So DarwinFPV did keep their promise. They did make a really quality drone for a really affordable price, really affordable, guys. Now, my wish for the future is that DarwinFPV continues to do this. I know it's kind of hard as a company gets bigger to keep the prices down, especially now with the chip shortage. But, you know, I do think DarwinFPV has something on their hands. I do think that they're going places, and if they continue this trend, they'll be a really well-known and competitive manufacturer in the FPV space, guys. Now, if you want to see how this Baby Hawk 2 performs, which is very similar in design to the TinyApe, I've done a video on that, and I'll leave the link right here. Now, if you want to see the Smart 16, my travel drone of choice, how it performs, I'll leave the video link right here. So thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.